And the title of his speech is Champions Come in All Shapes and Sizes. Champions come in all shapes and sizes. Please welcome Ted Butler.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and guests. This year's Super Bowl Sunday was an amazing day, but it started off, as most of my Sundays do, by teaching skiing up at our local mountain, Mission Ridge. And what makes the month of February so special for me up at our mountain, it's not just because we get our tremendous light powder snow, but it's when Mission Ridge conducts what they call their consecutive week ski lessons. And for an instructor such as myself, consecutive week lessons are different than our normal single-day private lessons or group lessons. We get to teach the same group of students, usually kids ages 5 through 15, many of which you've never skied before, for 5 consecutive weeks. And what that means? Well, we get to know one another. We get to build on the success of that week before. I get to share with them all sorts of interesting things about our fantastic mountain. And they get to share with me sometimes a bit about their amazing journey with me in return. So it was no surprise that I found myself that Sunday morning riding up the chairlift with one of my students. We'll call him Brandon. Now I want to pause for a moment and have you think about that word chairlift. Because for many of our students, that's as close as they would get to riding on a ride at Disneyland, except most of our kids will never get to Disneyland. And as you might imagine, some of those kids look forward to that with great anticipation, but for the majority of them, not so much. And because of that, I would tend to enter into very deep and meaningful conversations with them as we're getting ready to get on the chairlift about all sorts of important topics, such as, what's your favorite kind of pizza? Or your favorite flavor of ice cream? What's your teacher's name? What are you studying? Do you have any pets? What are their names? You might get the idea. Just about anything to help keep them from thinking too much about the fact that they're now going to be suspended 100 feet in the air by a thin wire cable. And no, there's no seatbelts on this ride. Brandon had shared with me that he didn't ski at all last year, that this was his first time back after taking a bit of a break. But this wasn't just any Sunday. This was Super Bowl Sunday. And let me rephrase that. It was Seahawks Super Bowl Sunday. Go Hawks. And we had skiers, fans, all over our mountain, decked out in all kinds of Seahawks gear. We had skiers wearing Seahawks helmets, wearing Seahawks jerseys, with Seahawks scarves, even skiers holding enormous 12th man flags. And our students were no exception. I noticed what appeared to be a Seahawks jersey, the blue and gray of its collar, just visible above Brandon's zipped up ski parka and below his tiny white chin. I looked over and said, "So is that a Hawks jersey you have on, Brandon?" His little head turned around to look at me, his eyes sparkling even through the ski goggles covering his tiny glasses. "Yep," he said. "Cool. So who's your favorite player?" "Russell Wilson," he said. "He gave me this jersey." And he looked down again at the snow passing below us, his eyes no longer so cheerful. Now, I will admit, I am an eternal optimist. I tend to look over the negatives and focus on the positives. I am very much that glass half full type of a guy. And maybe, just maybe, that's why I was a little slow on the uptake that morning. Well, that was pretty neat, I continued. So, when did he do that? Was it at a dinner or an auction maybe? Thinking that that's, of course, where somebody like me would meet somebody like Russell Wilson. His little helmet sunk a bit deeper on his shoulders. "No," was his quiet response. "It was at the hospital when I was sick." My mind began to reel. as it immediately went from that glass half full to now one half empty. "Oh, Brandon," I said, "I'm so sorry. What were you in for?" I stammered, sounding more like I was talking to an inmate rather than one of my students. "Leukemia," he said, "but I'm better now." Better now? Leukemia can be a devastating disease, even for the strongest. I know this all too well. But for the body of an 8-year-old child, I could scarcely imagine. But Brandon continued. "Coach Ted, Russell Wilson is a really nice guy. He would come and he'd visit me, and he would sit down and we would talk. And one day, he brought me his jersey. I wear it now. It's my lucky jersey." Now my eyes began to twinkle, but for a different reason. Because I got to share with that young man a bit about one of my heroes, my own father, and his battle and victory over that terrible disease. And I got to share with Brandon the encouraging news about what a rich and rewarding life in remission that my father enjoyed and that I wished for him as well. And I told him, "Brandon, that makes you one of my heroes now, too." He looked up at me again, that little twinkle in his eyes. "Yeah," he said, "I guess." Well, by now we had reached the top of the mountain. We skied off the chairlift over to the group of our waiting students. But I could see out of the corner of my eye that at least for one of my students, they seemed to be standing now just a little bit taller there in their lucky jersey. Later that afternoon, we witnessed a truly extraordinary football game. And we watched our quarterback, our champion, Russell Wilson, display the type of character that simply can't be taught. The type of character forged not only on the football field, but off the football field as well. Champions do come in all shapes and sizes. And they have names. They have names like Russell. They have names like Dad. And yes, names like Brandon.